disaster. Hello, on the set of Adventuresome Reviews.
Where it's falling apart in ways you cannot see.
Yes, you'll have to simply trust us when we say it is an absolute disaster.
We welcome you all to our disaster, and we hope you've had a good day.
Yes, very much so.
What are we doing today?
We are reviewing Blade's Edge by Virginia McLean.
Gasp! Gasp!
A finalist for the... wrong page. I'm on the
Science and Fantasy Book Blog Off.
SPFBO Award. We wanted the acronym.
Acronyms are for acronyms.
Acronyms are cool when they spell different words. Two friends, two forbidden powers, one chance to change everything. When Mishi is taken from her orphanage home, she fears she'll never see her best friend Taka again. And when Taka is taken to the infamous Josanko that same day, it seems as if more than distance will keep them apart. Suddenly alone in their fight to survive, each girl must come to terms with her true nature. Mishi as a warrior, Taka as a healer. Years after the separation, the girls' journeys lead them to uncover the horrifying secret that the Roju Council has spent centuries killing to keep.
Dun,
stab, stab,
dun,
stab.
Dun.
Now the Roju Council wants Taka and Mishi dead, and they'll have only one chance to save their people.
Dun, dun, dun.
Very doom and death. Success or die. It's very exciting.
Much excitement. Little wow. Small duckling.
Well, this is the duckling, which are occasionally cute. Opening thoughts.
It's another one of those books that has a more Asian, Japanese theme, and I liked it, but I do think there could have been more done with it. The Asian theme was mostly names and the...
So the Asian theme is beneficial to the book, like straight up.
Yes, it
didn't go as far as, in our humble opinion, we would have liked to see.
It wasn't immersive, it was more of just a veneer over the top.
I wouldn't go so far as to knock it that much, but yes, it was a lot of trappings of the Asian culture, or Japanese culture, I should say. Do you have a thought, or can I go?
You can go.
So, I actually found the writing itself fairly competent throughout, but... Okay, actually, I'll start with this thing. Women with powers are suppressed, are killed in the womb the moment the midwives feel the power. Women who have a certain amount of magical strength are killed in the womb, right? And this is as a result of 500 years or so years ago, they had a woman who was really powerful and went on this massive murder spree, tried conquering over the world. And ever since then, the Roju, which is the leading power of the world, has suppressed women with powers.
Yes.
As a setup, I actually really like this.
Agreed.
I really like how it's kind of visceral, it's really dark and grim, and overall very enjoyable.
It's rooted in a history instead of just a random tyrannical oppressive...
Yeah, and to some extent...
While it is all those things, the fact that it originated from a narrative
it feels natural because the culture changed in result to a major event. So the Josanko are the midwives of the group. They run around... No?
If I remember correctly,
Regardless, Taka goes to the Josanko, which is an academy for training midwives, right? And the midwives are the ones tasked with sensing the magical abilities and the gender of the baby and causing a miscarriage if necessary, which is, of course, horribly psychologically murderous on all the midwives. But they are absolutely brutalized in these schools in order to prepare them for this job. And I am, on the one hand, the schools on the one hand were enjoyable for the brutality, yada yada, and on the other hand, I didn't really buy them, right? So day one, random girl in the class goes up and asks a question, raises her hand, very politely asks a question. The teacher goes, in jail for a week or so, instantly, which is just not how you brainwash a class or a school.
You've done much brainwashing, have you?
Yes, I've brainwashed you consistently. I am very experienced in the subject. Trust me.
Okay, then I defer.
See? It's working. And but the other hand is like the brutality of the school is...
It serves its purpose, but it's not entirely believable.
Right.
And so it serves to build... I almost have the word I want, but animosity. It builds animosity for the antagonists of the narrative, and
it makes the Josanko into royal bastards that you really just want to see destroyed and doomed and died. That's my mic falls down.
This really is a disaster of a set today.
Yes, we should have explosions and...
But the most important fact, or rather one of the many important facts, is the quality of the characters of this story.
I wasn't quite done with the Josanko, so we're going to have to backtrack before you run away.
You're going to spoil everything. You already spoiled multiple book points.
I did?
Yes.
They're all
what the
like
Josanko are doing is a secret at the start of the book. You just spoiled that like it's nobody's business. You spoiled the why and the history of it all like it's nobody's business.
Okay,
like,
so spoiling history is not I don't feel that very spoilerish.
It's spoiling everything. You can't tell them every beat of the story. They already know what happens in the first half of the story now.
Yeah, but it's like there's one more point I want to chuck at the Josanko that I really just did not agree with.
Fine.
So the Josanko schools are a public school system that nobles and commoners send women with below a certain power level to, right? And yet the Josanko use rape as a punishment. And it's all very hush-hush, but there's nobles there. There is no way this would actually fly.
So, more of a brutality serves to make them build animosity, but some of the things they get away with aren't believable.
Yes.
So you're just validating my point even further?
Sure, why not? But I really wanted to impress our viewers and listeners upon the egregiousness of the situation.
I have. That entire point has just deeply aggrieved me towards you at the moment.
Well, fine, then I'll let you continue. I'll pretend to be aggrieved at what you state next.
Okay. I found the characters.
I find that deeply aggrieving.
So you have your two main characters, Mishi and Taken. They're on different sides of the spectrum, and they go through experiences, but ultimately they're only all right for me. Like, they're mildly likable, but they never really popped or sang or... And that's kind of my feeling for a lot of this book, is that there's pieces I like and etc., but the book never really elevated or hit all the points with as much impact as I wanted it to.
I was actually going to mention this, and I have the very same impression of the book. My view of the book is that it actually has a lot of really good plot points, like the killing the children of the womb, the murderous midwives, and the book has a lot of just good thoughts. It's like almost the entire book is good thoughts. It never manages to truly capitalize on anything. It's like occasionally there's good moments and that does well on, but
I think some of it is that it's not a particularly long book, but it has two separate POVs, and those two POVs embark on a variety of not adventures, but
they go through very different trainings. Because Taka runs away from the Josanko fairly early in the book, and she gets lost in the jungle.
Yeah, and it's just the book tries to do a whole lot, and while it succeeds in presenting interesting points to the readers, it doesn't. None of the points are really made a focus besides as points to explore. I don't even know if that's an accurate representation. It's just
We feel like the story could have spent a little more time and gotten into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of various points, and actually had those points affect the story in some.
I think some of it. So you have the Josanko and you have the rebellion, because the book is a rebellion
So
story.
it's not a rebellion of armies, which is something I really enjoyed.
It's more espionage, again, which is a point I really like.
Okay, can we?
You can do whatever you want. I'm just going to glare at you and potential reprimand.
The way the book resolves the oppressive government, I found really enjoyable.
Agreed.
Okay, like really enjoyable. It's probably the standout moment for the book.
I think the point was, your main protagonists interact very rarely or very sparingly with the most interesting elements of the book. From the Josanko, your main character there, she learns about them, what they're doing, and then she books it.
But no time is spent in the school. It's like you are given 2 chapters in which to enjoy the brutality of the place. Then you time skip, and she's running away.
You keep saying, I enjoy brutality. I'm getting progressively more worried about you.
I'm getting worried about myself, but it's just the word. It's my word of the day. Let's leave it at that.
It's less the word and more of the contents. But regardless, I can't keep bullying him. I want to give you some compliments. Your nose is looking particularly fine today.
Why, thank you.
Yes,
I am very proud of it.
Yes, you should be. It is quite the schnoz. The characters, they inhabit the story, but they only rarely interact. Both of them go through a significant training and growing up period where you are...
All of which is skipped over, which could be
not all of it is skipped over.
Quite a bit of it is. There's like a
lot
4-year.
Of it, you can't
time you skip where
you can't do a 6-year training montage in a book. It wouldn't work.
I beg to differ.
It's that
just to be different, but yes, I typically would agree with you.
And it's not that they entirely skip over it. They have scenes and moments throughout where they explore their abilities.
More with Mishi than Taka.
Well, Taka's, yes, but... Which is extra sad, because Taka's the one that has a particularly interesting environment. She gets raised
by an old jungle king, forest, a demigod.
A tree spirit who's particularly prickly, and it's
actually really enjoyable whenever he's on the screen.
And and their relationship gets almost no time.
And it's just depressing.
And then they finish their training period, and they go off, and they have these adventures. But they're never really put into active conflict or into active interaction with the conflict of the story, at least not in a meaningful way for me. It's like they never have to really battle and get around or hide the fact that they're women with extreme power that the entire society is afraid of and actively looking to destroy. They find safe havens constantly, and if somebody discovers their abilities, they fight briefly and then escape, and then their abilities being discovered are never come back to haunt them per se. And then they have the plot that the reader doesn't necessarily know why they're doing it, but they have a plot and they're following through the plot, and they make their speed bumps on their plot, but they're just speed bumps. So these characters, they're put in this interesting world, but they don't grapple and interact and have to shape themselves around the world besides as the plot line, like, I'm going towards this plot line to resolve these issues.
So, a large part of the book, or not a large part, the book opens up with Mishi and Taka being in an orphanage, 3 and 4 years old, what have you, and they're supposed to be really good friends, but we only get a chapter of them being good friends, And then the book kind of starts barreling towards their reunion, their eventual reunion, only you don't care about it at all because the relationship was never built up effectively. And the book tries here and there to remind you of it and build a little bit of fond memories, but by and large,
some of the book's relationships land pretty well. A lot of them, or not actually a lot of them, some of them don't. And the don't is somewhat because they get glossed over, somewhat just because they don't really have a good place in the narrative.
Like, another really good part of the book is there's this, primarily it takes place in the latter half, but it's for Mishi, and Mishi comes into contact with an assassin, right? And like her relationship with this assassin is actually very fraught with misconceptions and lies and things,
psychology and complexity,
and it's actually it's really well handled.
Yes.
And it's, you know, it's kind of brainwashed as the assassin is, and it's...
I'm gonna give you my dangerous tarity eye waggle.
Yes, I'm sure you will. And this is one of the relationships that just really work well in the story.
Something that doesn't work as well, because it's largely underexplored, is the magic system. It's another loosely fire element-based magic system, but it's very simplified, as in there's very little...
It's unimpressive. Just
water is used to heal, and that's basically the extent of its display in this book. Fire behaves in ways that it's not supposed to. And it's basically just she throws it around, and it's ultimately an underwhelming use of the magic.
Especially only ever exposed to water, which is healing, so that she's not even throwing around droplets of ice or anything.
Yeah, and so it's just
like the magic in itself is almost largely non-existent. You have Mishi has this one really powerful spell, which is amounts to giving fire a little bit of physicality, and she uses that twice in the book. Once to show it's dangerous, and once to have her use it knowing it's dangerous.
Yeah. Any other concluding thoughts? Because I've pretty much stated my general opinion of the book and all the things that sort of struck me about it.
There is a dragon, though, and Mishi gets taught by a dragon, which is occasionally interesting.
Yeah, but he's like 2 scenes again. It's back to his like...
I know that like the teachers are actually kind of interesting, and they just weren't given as much screen time as we would like.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So actually, just because it's a scene I kind of enjoyed. It's not deeply emotional or narratively awesome or anything. It's just Taka has spent the last 4 or 6 years learning healing magic from a talking tree. And I forget exactly how the conversation goes down, but he basically calls her a renowned healer, and she says, "I'm not a renowned healer." And he says, "Yes, you are. You have spent the last 4 years healing every broken wing, stub toe in this forest. You are a friend of the creatures. They know you." And it actually comes to some effect throughout the story. Right? She has a hawk companion who saves everybody's lives like 300 to 400 times. It's really nice. I'm exaggerating dramatically, but still, it's Taka. I really like Taka and her training regime a lot.
So yeah, end opinion: 3.5 stars.
3 stars.
Toodaloos. Goodbye. Au revoir.
До свидания.
We're out.
Fare thee well, our future friends.